And the WNBA had its biggest month of May in 26 years. That certainly supports the case that Caitlin Clark is the one that not only moved the needle, but possibly broke the needle off.
Did you know the WNBA just hit a mind-blowing milestone? The Indiana Fever smashed attendance records, pulling in over 600,000 fans this season. That's not just a little bump. We're talking more than doubling the previous record. How did they do it? It all started with one rookie. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Enter Caitlin Clark, the #1 draft pick who's turned the Fever's fortunes upside down. Last year, the team was struggling to fill seats. Now, they're packing nearly 17,000 fans into Gainbridge Fieldhouse every single game. That's insane.
The WNBA has seen record-breaking numbers this season. Indiana Fever are pretty much blowing out every other team. They are averaging almost 16,000 per 39 game.
But here's the kicker. Clark isn't just changing things for the Fever. She's shaking up the entire WNBA. We're talking about a seismic shift in how people see women's basketball. More fans, more money, more attention. It's a whole new ballgame. So how did one rookie pull off what seemed impossible just a year ago? Let's break it down and see just how deep this Caitlin Clark effect really goes. You've heard about Caitlin Clark's impact, but the numbers are wild. How does a team go from barely filling seats to setting attendance records in just one season? The answer involves more than just star power. It's a perfect storm that's changing the face of women's basketball. Picture this. Last season, the Indiana Fever were struggling. Empty seats everywhere, fans yawning, and the team's performance. Let's just say it wasn't exactly must-see TV. But then, boom, Caitlin Clark shows up and suddenly everyone's talking about the Fever. From the moment Clark stepped onto the court, it was like someone flipped a switch. Fans weren't just interested, they were going crazy. The excitement was off the charts. You know what's insane? After just 5 games, the Fever had already matched their total attendance from last year. 5 games.
When you think about the assists, I've said this before, but...
So, Caitlin Clark broke the all-time assist record yesterday.
The facilitation that Caitlin Clark has, I think, is one of the more underrated skill sets.
But here's where it gets really wild. Clark wasn't just filling seats, she was breaking records left and right. She set the single-game assists record with 19 assists. That's not a typo. 19 assists in one game! And she didn't stop there. Clark went on to smash the rookie season records for both assists and three-pointers. Talk about making an entrance. Now let's talk about Clark's game.
Setting her teammates up for success, and that has boded well for the Indiana Fever.
When this happened, she was averaging close to 7 assists a game.
She's averaging 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game. Those aren't just good numbers for a rookie. They're some of the best we've ever seen from any player in WNBA history. It's no wonder fans can't get enough of her. And get this, remember those empty seats from last season? Now the Fever are packing in nearly 17,000 fans every single game. That's almost a full house at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They even set a new WNBA regular season record with 20,711 fans at one game. Can you imagine the atmosphere in that arena? The WNBA's chief growth officer summed it up perfectly. I'm not going to deny the Caitlin Clark effect. And why would they? Clark isn't just changing things for the Fever. She's changing the entire landscape of women's basketball. Speaking of landscape changes, Clark's effect on the WNBA goes deeper than you might think. Remember when player jerseys were collecting dust on store shelves? Those days are long gone, and you won't believe by how much. Let's talk numbers.
Saying that since the start of the regular season, sales of WNBA merchandise are up over 500%. So impressive. Another thing that we've seen jump so much this season in the WNBA is merch sales. Fan gear sales over the first half of the season at the highest in league history.
And I mean jaw-dropping numbers. Caitlin Clark's impact on merchandise sales is off the charts. We're talking about a mind-blowing 1,000% increase in player-specific merchandise sales. That's not a typo. 1,000%! Fans aren't just watching Clark play. They're lining up to wear her jersey and rep her brand. But it's not just Clark's gear flying off the shelves. The entire WNBA is riding this wave of popularity. Overall merchandise sales have skyrocketed by over 500% compared to last year. That's huge! It's like everyone suddenly realized how cool WNBA gear is. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what about TV viewership? Are people actually watching the games? Oh, they're watching all right. The WNBA is pulling in an average of 1.2 million viewers per game this season. That's a massive jump, and you can bet Clark has a lot to do with it. Want to know something even crazier? Clark's All-Star debut was like a Super Bowl for women's basketball. It attracted 3.4 million viewers. That's a 305% increase from last year's All-Star game. People weren't just tuning in, they were glued to their screens. But here's where it gets really interesting. Clark's impact isn't limited to the Fever's home games. She's drawing crowds everywhere she goes. When the Fever played the Sparks, 1,903 fans packed the arena. That's a record for the Sparks, and it happened because everyone wanted to see Clark in action. In fact, the Fever's away games are averaging 15,315 fans. That's way higher than most teams in the league. It's like Clark is bringing her own cheering section wherever she goes. The WNBA's chief growth officer, Collie Edison, summed it up perfectly. I'm not going to deny the Caitlin Clark effect. And why would she? The numbers speak for themselves. Clark isn't just changing the game on the court, she's revolutionizing the entire business of women's basketball.
What kind of money these numbers are going to turn into, like, this is how you grow the league. So the Fever are going to account for over 200,000 more fans this year to their games.
Clark's changing the game, but the game's about to change even more. Remember when the WNBA was struggling to fill seats? Those days are over. Now they're building new arenas, and you won't believe how fast they're selling out.
Next season, the WNBA will be adding another team, the Golden State Valkyries, yet people are already buying their season tickets. They're literally almost sold out.
Let's talk about the WNBA's expansion plans. It's not just about adding a team or two. They're going big. The Golden State Valkyries are joining the league in 2025. And guess what? They've already sold over 15,000 season tickets. That's insane. People are lining up to watch a team that doesn't even exist yet. But wait, there's more. Toronto's getting a team in 2026. The WNBA's not just growing, it's crossing borders. By 2028, they're aiming to have 16 franchises. That's a huge jump from where they are now. You know what's really wild? The league's averaging nearly 9,800 tickets distributed per game. That's a 44% increase from last season. People aren't just watching on TV anymore. They're showing up in person, ready to cheer their hearts out. And it's not just diehard basketball fans filling those seats. The WNBA's attracting a whole new crowd. We're talking casual sports fans who might have never given women's basketball a second glance before. Now they're buying tickets, wearing jerseys, and screaming their lungs out at games. Why the sudden change? Well, players like Caitlin Clark are part of it. They're not just athletes, they're superstars. People want to see them play, and they're bringing their friends and family along for the ride. But it's more than just star power. The WNBA's gotten smart with their marketing. They're not just targeting hardcore basketball fans anymore. They're reaching out to people who might only watch the Super Bowl or the World Cup. And guess what? It's working. This isn't just good news for the WNBA, it's huge for women's sports as a whole. More fans mean more money, more coverage, and more opportunities for female athletes. We're talking about a domino effect that could change the entire sports landscape. Imagine a world where women's sports are just as big as men's, where female athletes are household names, not just in their sport, but everywhere. That's the direction we're heading, and the WNBA is leading the charge. Let's talk about the power of one player. Caitlin Clark didn't just change the Fever, she shook up the entire WNBA. We're seeing record-breaking attendance, merchandise flying off the shelves, and TV ratings through the roof. It's not just about Clark though, she's the spark that lit the fire, but now the whole league is on fire. You know what's really cool? This isn't just a win for Clark or the Fever, it's a win for every player, every team, and every fan of women's sports. We're watching history unfold right before our eyes. So next time someone tells you women's sports can't draw crowds or make money, just point them to Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Trust me, this is just the beginning of something huge.